Today we're going to go through the most complicated process that we're ever going to have to deal with in this class. And it's not the most important thing in the world that you would be able to like regurgitate all this step by step, but just that you know what the different roles are, like what's going on in each step here and how things can go wrong and how things can change. So today we're going to be talking about the lawmaking process. How does a bill become a law? So you see some familiar faces here. Here's our Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, our Senate Majority Leader, Mitch McConnell, and there's our friend Bill, a Bill from Schoolhouse Rock. I'm just a Bill. He'll be joining us today as we go through the process of how a bill becomes a law. So our objective today is to describe the process by which a bill becomes a law. This is important because we are going to have to explain the ways that different policymakers can influence this process. We're going to pay attention instead of like focusing on learning every single step in order and all that kind of stuff. We want to pay attention to the places where the bill can run into trouble. So where are the obstacles for the bill and where are the places that the bill can be changed? So we're going to just focus on the process of how a bill becomes a law. And we're going to start today with the House of Representatives. So we are going to go through the process that a bill would go through if it were being passed first in the House of Representatives. So here's Nancy Pelosi again. Here's our friend Bill. We're going to walk them both through the process of a bill becoming a law in the House. All right, step one in the process is the bill being introduced on the House floor. So this is where any member of Congress can introduce a piece of legislation. They can come to the House floor with a bill already fully written and be like, here's my perfect bill that I want you guys to pass. Or they can just come to the floor and be like, here's a problem that we need to work on a plan to solve. But what they're doing is they are recommending an action to take place. And this takes place on the House floor. So this is when all of the members of the House of Representatives are in the meeting all together. We call this the Committee of the Whole. So we were talking about committees last time. The Committee of the Whole just means all the House members are together in the chamber and they're debating or voting or discussing different policies. And this is an opportunity for any member of the House of Representatives to introduce a piece of legislation. This person is usually called the bill's sponsor. Sometimes they'll have their name on the bill. In our picture here, we see Memphis Congressman Steve Cohen giving a speech on the House floor, and this is an opportunity where he could propose a piece of legislation. So he's proposing a solution to a problem. But since everyone's there together, there's this 435 congressmen in our Committee of the Whole. This is way too many people to get involved in lawmaking. So it's time to move on to a more specialized group for step number 2. All right, in step 2, the bill is going to end up in a standing committee. But there's Nancy Pelosi again, our Speaker of the House. So what happens here is the Speaker of the House refers the bill to the committee that he or she finds to be the appropriate committee. So of all the different standing committee options that we looked at last time, it's up to the Speaker of the House to decide which of those committees will be working on a particular bill. They can also refuse to send a bill to a committee. So if they refuse to send a bill to a committee, nothing happens. The bill is already dead. So this gives the Speaker of the House the first opportunity. This we would call a veto point or an obstacle. This is the first chance that the Speaker of the House has to just kill the bill right there. So a member in step 1, a member of the House proposed a bill. If the Speaker does not like the idea, they don't have to send it to a committee at all. And in that way, nothing would happen to the bill. The Speaker of the House can set time limits for when the bill has to get done. So that's another opportunity to mess with the bill. They can give it not enough time to make a reasonable version of the bill or something like that. But if everything works out, let's say that the Speaker chooses to send the bill to a good committee, give them enough time to work on the bill. What's happened is we've sent it to a standing committee. So this is a group of congressmen who are specialists on a particular type of policy. Now, the average standing committee in the House of Representatives is still like 40 people. So this is still probably too many people to get any real work done. And your average representative is on 2 or 3 committees. So they're busy. They're not always all there at the same time and everything. So the standing committee is going to further specialize in order to get the real work done on this bill. That's where we'll go for step 3. All right, and step 3, just the same way that the speaker got to decide how the bill would go to a standing committee, now the committee chairman plays that role in the standing committee. So the committee chairman sends the bill to the subcommittee of their choice. Now, a subcommittee is a small group. A subcommittee has about 15 members in the House of Representatives here. So this is where the actual law writing can happen. Okay, this is a small group of people. On a subcommittee, they're very specialized. So those congressmen and their staffs are going to work together on writing the law. So they'll make decisions about the details of the law and all this kind of stuff. Now, we're going to talk about iron triangles in the future when we get to interest groups and things like that. But here is where the iron triangle relationship is going to have the most influence. So the subcommittee level is very specialized, way out of the public eye. You can't, we don't watch subcommittee hearings or anything like that. They're very, very boring. So this is a great opportunity for interest groups to get involved in the writing of the law. So congressmen are doing the actual writing of the law, but they're meeting with members of interest groups. They're meeting with their political party leaders. And they're taking suggestions on exactly what kind of details need to be in this law. This step of the process happens farthest away from the public eye. So this is a good opportunity for interest groups to get involved. Once the subcommittee has written the law and they are happy with what they have produced here, this bill has to go back to the standing committee. We're basically going back to where we were in step 2, but that standing committee has to approve the bill that came out of the subcommittee here. So the bill is returned to the standing committee, and all the members of that committee are going to vote on this version of the bill. So this bill, before this bill can go any further, it has to meet the approval of the majority of people on the committee. The members of the committee here may like the bill that came out of the subcommittee. They may like the bill, they may be okay with the bill, but they have problems, and that's what we call a markup session. So when it comes back to the committee, we've gone from 15 people who worked on the bill back to about 40 people, and here the other members of their committee can make revisions to the bill and they can make additions to the bill. And this is an opportunity for those members of the committee to add in their pork barrel projects or to add on small details of things that they wanted done with the bill. The bill plus the additions that this committee makes is what the House is going to vote on. The whole House, when they vote on the bill, they're not getting to vote on the version written by the subcommittee, but they're getting to vote on the version written by the subcommittee plus the extra things added into the bill by the standing committee. So at this point, the bill might be screwed up compared to how it was when the subcommittee was working on the bill. It might be a good bill plus a few pork barrel projects from members of the committee here. Just like the Speaker of the House had an opportunity to never let that bill go anywhere, we run into another problem here in the standing committee. If the committee chairman, only the committee chairman, does not like this bill, they'll just not vote on it. They won't let the bill move forward. And so the bill can get stuck in the committee right here. The bill can get stuck and never go forward into the House. So the committee chairman has an opportunity to prevent the bill from moving forward if they just refuse to let their committee vote on the bill that was made. All right, if we've gotten extremely lucky and we've got a bill that came out of the subcommittee and was approved by the committee, now we are going to a step that I hope you guys are very familiar with at this point. We are headed to the House Rules Committee. The House Rules Committee, controls the agenda in the House of Representatives. So they are going to schedule the bill for debate and vote on the House floor. So they're going to find time for the bill to be debated by the members of the House of Representatives, and they are going to set a final time for voting. So they will create a limited amount of time for debate. They will set a deadline for a vote to take place. And the other thing they will decide is they will decide the House Rules Committee, not the committee that wrote the law, but the House Rules Committee has the ability to decide if there is an open rule or a closed rule on the bill. Back in the vocabulary section, we had talked about this before. Open rule means anybody on the House floor gets to add amendments to the bill. So they can add in their own projects, or they can change the meaning of the bill. They can completely change what the original subcommittee wrote. A closed rule forbids any of the other members from adding new things to the bill. So if a bill got to the House Rules Committee and they like the bill, they'll go ahead, schedule it for a floor vote, and call it a closed rule. They think this is a good bill. We're going to go ahead and let people vote on it the way it is. If they don't like the bill, or they think they have friends that want to add things to the bill, maybe they want to add things to the bill themselves, they make it an open rule. And now we got 435 members of Congress that can start adding whatever they want to this bill. So this is a huge opportunity right here. This is a big fork in the road that determines whether or not the bill is going to be passed in a way that the committee intended, or if the bill has an opportunity to be screwed up by 435 representatives on the House floor. So if the House Rules Committee, another opportunity for them, they could decide just never to schedule this bill. So it might not see the House floor. But if they schedule this for a House vote, we're finally moving on to step 6. All right, if we've been extremely lucky, if the bill has come out of the subcommittee, it's been approved by the standing committee, the House Rules Committee has decided it's okay, they're not going to mess with it, and they've scheduled it for debate and vote, then finally the bill is on the House calendar and floor action will take place. So the bill is going to get debated. Exactly, the time is split in half. If the House Rules Committee is scheduled 6 hours for debate, then that means 3 hours of that time is going to be given to people who support the bill, and 3 hours of that time is going to be given to people who oppose the bill. Not necessarily to one party or another, but usually things will follow along party lines that way. If the House Rules Committee assigned an open rule to this bill, during this time, all these new amendments will be added to the bill. Now, the voting cannot take place unless we have a quorum. So that means that we need to have at least half. So at least half of the 435 members have to be there in order for voting to take place. With the House, especially since there's so many members and they have so many different things going on in their districts, it's not weird for there to be less than 435 total votes on the bill. But as long as they have more than half of the members there, they can vote on the bill, and we'll see if it passes. So if it does pass, now that bill goes on to the Senate. If it didn't pass, there's another opportunity for the bill to die as is. So this is only the House side of the process. If we've been successful with this bill so far, we have to jump over to the other chamber of Congress, and we're going to see how this process would go in the Senate, because the bill has to pass all the way through the House and all the way through the Senate before we can move on to our more complicated steps afterwards.